This is episode 105, and what we're going to be talking about is the two systems that are operational in the world today. You would have heard people talk about the scarcity mindset and the abundance mindset. What exactly do these things mean? But more importantly, if one is more productive than the other, how do you switch from one to the other? Remember, on this channel, the focus is showing how the principles of the kingdom of God, i.e., of the Bible, are helpful in helping us to solve everyday problems. And we do that by coupling biblical wisdom with the practicality of science. The Bible explains in a lot more detail why things are the way they are. What science is good when it comes to is giving us the specifics of how certain things work. For example, the science can't tell us why gravity exists, but it can go into detail explaining how gravity works. Science can't tell us where human beings come from, why you were born. Science doesn't give you answer to those kind of things, but the Bible does. But science can explain a lot more about the specifics of certain things. So science gives details, but the Bible will give the big picture why issues. What you see here is a picture of money. So the question is, what does money represent to you? Now, it can only represent one of two things. That is the opportunity to go out there and spend. Oh, I need a new car, or I'm going to get new shoes or new clothes. Or you can look at money and see it as seeds, in which case money represents the potential. It represents production and productivity. But what are these two systems that we're talking about? In the previous episode 104, I made reference to these two systems when we were talking about how the business system is actually a biblical invention. But what are these two systems? The two systems are what we would call here the Babylonian system and also the kingdom of God system, or as we sometimes call it, the biblical economic system. Now, how are the two systems different? And how are the two systems similar? But before we get into those details, let's understand how the two systems came into being. And then you'll begin to see them a whole lot clearer. Now, in Genesis chapters 1 and chapter 2, the Bible talks about a perfect environment where mankind live and spend time face to face with God. We also know that the Garden of Eden was the terrestrial expression of heaven. It was the terrestrial version of the kingdom of God. In other words, the Garden of Eden was a physical environment where heaven and earth met. Now we know everything was perfect because men lacked nothing. There was no sin, there was no pain, there was nothing that was bad. Now God made it very clear to these two people who were present. They said, this is what you have as a choice. You can continue to experience my system of abundance, but to do that, you will have to follow the way I say life has to be led. The other option you have at your disposal is to reject what I'm saying and choose a different system. But what I'm telling you is that different system is a system that you're not going to like. Now, people being who they are, they're always curious. So, what we have in Genesis chapter 3 is where mankind decided, you know what? God is saying, I must do this and I must not do that. What if I did a little bit of what He's telling me not to do? That's effectively what happened. And what happened was God began to pronounce punishments. Now, the first punishment went to who? It went to the snake, and the second one went to the devil. So the first two are associated with the snake. First one is a physical snake that gets punished. The second one is the spiritual entity behind the snake. That's the devil. That's where God says, it's this a seed of the woman is going to come through and it's going to crush your head. But after that, we have the woman being punished, and then we have number three. Now, this is the punishment that the man is subjected to. Now, this is important to realize. God does not curse mankind. What he curses is the ground. So, what this tells us, before men chose to disobey God, it was very easy for the ground to produce things for men. Because after the punishment, God is saying, this ground is going to struggle to give you the things that you need. You're going to have to work very hard to get it to do what you want it to do. So, this is where we see the second system coming into being. So, the first system was the abundance system of God. The second system is what we would later call the Babylonian system. That's what we call it in this episode. What is the difference between the Babylonian system and the kingdom of God system? Now, we're going to answer that question by looking at a number of matrices. The first one has to do with the mindset. What exactly is a mindset? We have shown this pictorial earlier on that your actions are the expressions of your beliefs. So you have beliefs, you have mindset, you have thoughts, you have feelings, and you take actions, and your result are the what you end up with are the results. So your results are the consequence of your actions, which reverberate all the way to your beliefs. So you will always do what is consistent with what you believe. If you face with a situation where this is what I desire, but my beliefs are this way, you always going to end up choosing this one most of the time. So what does God's system look like? Now God says, and go back to Genesis chapters 1 and 2. God says to mankind, I have given you this garden. Your responsibility is to manage this garden, is to beautify this garden, is to create. He specifies that in Genesis 1:28 when he says, be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth, subdue it. And that's where dominion would arise, or men already had dominion over everything else. Now, this is what we spoke about a little bit in episode 104. That is where the business system came from. So, God is saying, there is stuff that I'm giving you, but I'm giving you stuff that's already done, but it's up to you to make it even better. Now, as you make it better, you're going to continue to grow in your identity as the smaller version of me. So, mankind is made in the image of God. He is a child of God, so to speak, but he needs to spend time with God and act in accordance with the laws of God. And as he continues to do that, he will eventually mature as a fully fledged son of God. Now we see that happening in Revelation 21, verse 7, where God says, the many of you who have overcome the enemy, the devil, have become my sons, and I'm going to become your God. But not only that, but you have inherited everything that I own. So, in a nutshell, God's system of abundance says there is a product which I'm giving you, but this product is not fully finished. It's up to you to use your creativity to make this even better than what it is. So, in a way, it's saying, I have given you finite resources, but it's up to you to use these finite resources to create something a whole lot bigger. And you can use these finite resources in a multiple ways so that you will continue to have abundance over a very, very long time. Now, this is not a very complicated concept. Let's look at a grand piano. A piano typically has 88 keys. So that's a finite number of keys. But using those 88 keys, how many melodies can be put together? How many melodies can be created using that finite number of keys? The answer is limitless. You can make as many melodies as you can think. So the only thing that stops you is your imagination. So the fundamental issue about God's system of abundance is you have at your disposal what you need. You need to use creativity, and using creativity, you produce something bigger and better than what's already out there. But what he's also saying is to do that in many situations, you're going to have to collaborate, to work with other people. Now, let's look at the Babylonian system. The Babylonian system kicks in, as I've explained, in Genesis chapter 3, after men had chosen to disobey God. And what immediately happens is Man is faced with a situation where I used to plant seeds and they would sprout and grow very quickly. Now, suddenly, I plant seeds, it's a struggle. Weeds are there, I have to make sure that I take weeds out. And I have, so basically, we don't know how easily things happen before then. But what is clear is what is happening now, which is whenever you plant something, it's a struggle to make it grow. Things were a whole lot easier before that. So with this Babylonian system, what is clear is I'm expecting to suffer. So because I'm going to be suffering, I'm going to make sure that what I produce only provides for me. Now, with God's abundance system, the thinking is different. The thinking is there is more than enough. And when there is more than enough, I work with you, we create something bigger, and we can help other people. Now, with the Babylonian system, the first thought is there isn't enough. I'm not going to work so hard and then take what I've worked so hard for and give it to other people who are freeloading. And this is really what the main difference is. It's the belief system that underpins this. So the mindset comes from the belief. So God's system says there's abundance, and the Babylonian system says no, there isn't abundance. So the question is, who do you believe? Which system do you live by? Of course, our experiences are we have lack. But let's look at where lack actually came from. In the Garden of Eden, God said to Adam and Eve, you have everything in the garden that you need, and go in there and have fun. And the Bible tells us that the devil came and said to them, no, 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 there's something else that you don't have. And from that point, you see mankind making a decision to focus on what he doesn't have. God is saying, don't focus on what you don't have. Because you know what you don't have? I'm talking about the situation now, but you need to understand that what you don't have is available out there. You need to use creativity. You need to perhaps work with other people in order to achieve that. So, in a nutshell, God's system is saying there's abundance. And the Babylonian system says there is lack. So, where are you going to focus? Are you going to focus on what you don't have? Or are you going to focus on, okay, I don't have this, but I know it's available and I'm going to work hard to try and get it? Remember at the beginning, I asked you, what does money represent to you? That your answer is an example of the mindset that you have. Now, if your answer was, oh no, this is an opportunity for me, to get a new iPhone or to get new shoes and stuff, that is actually telling you, because money is like a form of seeds, and when you have seeds, there are only two things you can do with the seeds. You can store them or you can use them. And there are different ways of using them. If you're storing seeds, you're going to be using them later on. But if you eat your seeds, which means the opportunity for the seeds to become something bigger is wasted. Another point that's very important is the role of fear. The Babylonian system has fear operating very, very, very visibly and very, very strongly. But God's system is saying fear has no place because I believe there's abundance. I may not get everything that I want now, but through hard work, I will eventually get to that outcome. Even if I don't get to the outcome that I'm desiring, that I desire, I will still end up being the better version of myself. So the Babylonian system focuses on the result. This is what I want, this is what I need, and I want to show other people that I'm important and that kind of thing. But the system of God focuses on the process. We discussed this at length in episode 101. Now let's look at looking at the mindset. The Babylonian system is about you thinking like a hunter. Whenever you want something, you go out there, where can I get this that I'm looking for? But the kingdom of God system has you thinking like a farmer. A hunter goes out there and they just get what they want. It's like a hyena. They just go there and they just like scavenging and taking everything for themselves. But the kingdom of God operates very differently. As a farmer, you understand that before I harvest, I first need to plant. That's where that whole creativity thing comes into the picture. I'm going to spend time planting the seeds and I'm going to end up with a lot more. But hunters don't think that way. They like, okay, where is there a place where I can harvest? They're just looking for a harvest and they didn't do any work in producing that harvest. They just want to go there and scavenge and eat what's already available. In what areas do you think that way? Now, part of the problem so many of us struggle with finances and struggle with so many other things is we think according to the Babylonian way of looking at things. We find it difficult to delay gratification. We just want to go in there and become a hunter and eat. We don't want to build. I mean, you see this with these pyramid schemes that are, mushrooming all over the place, and people would trust people they don't know with the money they've worked so hard for. Why? Because they feel, oh, I have lost so much time and I can make money quickly by investing in this and that and that. But somebody who was operating on the basis of the kingdom of God system started planting years ago, and they started looking after the produce where they were planting the seeds and making sure that the tree would grow. So I hope you're getting the gist of it. It's in according to one system, you go out there and you harvest. So you look for opportunities to harvest. But according to God's system, you have to make sure that you plant, because when you plant first, the harvest is a lot more than if you were just going out there and looking for things. But not only that, but when you sitting here with a bountiful harvest, you in a way are calling the shots. You can sell what you've produced and then you can make deals with other people. Now, the people who didn't plant suddenly find themselves, oh, I need to go buy this, or I need to go eat this, or I need to go steal this. So that's one. It's the mindset of a hunter or the mindset of a farmer. What's very different between the two systems again is the Babylonian system approaches things very differently. It's about me and my family. When I see an opportunity, it's about, okay, what's in it for me? So it's, you find situations where somebody sees an opportunity and they want to corner it only for themselves. But the biblical economic system works very differently. It says the opportunity has to go to the ecosystem. Or let me put it differently, the ecosystem has to benefit. Now, think about it. If we grow the ecosystem, everybody or everything in that ecosystem is going to be better off. But that is not how Babylonian people think. They think, oh, I'm not going to do work for somebody else. I need to be paid for the effort that I put in. And I'm just looking for where I can eat and I can harvest. The ecosystem, it's not my fault that they're poor. It's very selfishly driven. It's about me and it's about my family. It's about the people who are important to me. Everybody else, they'll take care of themselves. I'm hoping you're beginning to see a pattern here. And again, this is where you see Mammon coming into the picture in a very strong way. Remember what I asked you? What does money represent to you? Now, what Mammon is, let me just explain this a little bit, because when you read like different Bible translations, some translate Mammon as money, others as something else. But Mammon is a Syrian god who controlled people using money and riches. So, of course, sometimes it's represented as money or as riches, but it's really the deity, the God behind the scenes who controls people. Now, you've seen people who are who think money. Every opportunity is like, how much money can I make? How much money? I mean, you find a guy, he's like very wealthy, and somebody comes who's like really struggling and they're like, please, can I have something to eat? They're like, oh, no, it's not my problem that you don't have something to eat. What I'm saying is people of the Babylonian mindset think in terms of like essentially pleasing mammon. I have worked hard for my money and it's not my fault that you're struggling. So don't come and bother me. And these are the kind of people who will, build all these big walls, and they have all the money locked in. They do nothing for anybody else with the money. Now, of course, you work hard for yourself. Your money is your money. It's your decision what you do with it. But what I'm saying is the biblical economics mindset says God has to come first. Now, this is what we discussed in the previous episodes. Okay. The Matthew 6:33 says, seek first the kingdom of God. And we've explained that God must come first. And then other things. What are the other things that you need? One of those things is money, but money must be a servant of you serving God. So you use money to serve God, you use money to serve other people. So God comes first, and that intimacy with God comes first. But there was a time when things were very bad. Like when I was a child, sometimes I would think, you know what? I understand I'm going to serve God. I'm going to serve God. But what I actually want to do, I want to go out there, make as much money as possible, and then only come back and serve God. But you're doing it the wrong way around. God is saying, come to me and I'll make life better for you. I have blessings that you can benefit from, that you can essentially inherit. But there are systems. There is a system that you need to follow. And that system says, I need to come first. And when you build intimacy with me, I'm going to make wisdom available to you. And on the basis of this wisdom, you will begin to create bigger opportunities for yourself and for people in your ecosystem. Remember, in an earlier episode, we said the you are a spiritual entity that lives in a physical packaging called the body, and the spiritual component of you is wired for relationships, first with God, and second with yourself, and third with other people. But the natural component of you is wired for increase. So based on the intimacy with God, you get wisdom on how to do things. And number one, we spoke about three levels. One is yourself. You come bundled with gifts, and you come bundled with a purpose. Now, your gifts are aligned with the purpose. So you need to figure out what those are. And then it's a family. What the family does, it helps you to grow into this individual who, you go to like varsity, etc., and you acquire skills, because it's the role of the parents to help you through that process. Now, once you have acquired skills, your responsibility is to come up with a solution to some sort of problem that you care a lot about, and you sell the solution. And again, level number three is where we're talking about the tribe. That's where you interact with the tribe. The tribe, in a way, is your ecosystem. You go sell a product to them, and everybody benefits because you start working with people. You give them this and they give you something in exchange. That something could be money, or in the case of strategic relationships, together we work to create something that none of us would have been able to create on our own. Essentially, we're saying, with the Babylonian mindset, what you want comes first. It sounds logical that, no, I'm hungry, I must want to have the money so I can take care of my hunger, so I can take care of my needs. But God is saying that's not how you do it. That's not how you should do it. First, come to me and establish intimate relationship with me. I will help you sort out your hunger. So it almost sounds illogical when you approach it from the Babylonian perspective. How is my building intimacy with God going to help me with my mortgage? Essentially, it's the approach. What is important, or who is important? Is it mammon or is it God? Now, this is the thing about mammon. Mammon can string you along. It's like, okay, I'm going to give you this, I'm going to give you this, but I want you to do this and this and this. And then it continues and goes, like 20 years later, you still don't have that which he promised you. Now, let's look at it in a very simplified way. So many of us started working, okay, myself included, and I was like, okay, I knew I was supposed to start saving immediately, and I knew I was supposed to start investing immediately. But what did I do? What do many of us do? We like, no, I'll catch up, you know. And this is part of the reason so many of us end up getting scammed, because we see this product. They say like, okay, you invest so much and then you'll get like, some outrageous returns. And it's like, the first few people will come with testimony, oh, this thing works and works and works and works. But That's how Mammon operates. He's like reeling you in, reeling you in. Once you have so much of your money invested, then the whole thing collapses and you lose everything. But what is the root cause of that? It's the Babylonian approach to doing things. God is saying, follow a process. Start now at age 20 something. When you start working, start saving, start investing, so that by the time you age 40, you have what we call money trees that are grown, that are beginning to generate income for you, that are these assets that that have appreciated so much. Now if you have a lot of those, it becomes easy to buy them, to sell them, to begin to do things that are important to you. I hope you're seeing what I'm saying. I'm saying the Babylonian mindset is about, I don't have time to invest because it's going to take too long. I want to enjoy the benefits like now. I don't have time for that. I'll catch up. And this is what a lot of us, this is the reason so many of us have ended up with not as much money as we were hoping we're going to get. Now, there's something else that I want to talk to you about. There's an experiment, it's a famous experiment in psychology. It's called the marshmallow experiment. So what they did with this experiment was they brought in young children and they basically gave them like a candy, and they said, okay, fine. So the experimenter said to like the children, okay, you know what? I've got to go outside quickly. Now, here is candy on the table. If you wait until I come back, I'm going to give you more candy. So the choice that the kids had to make was, am I going to succumb to instant gratification, that urge, and eat the candy? Or can I delay gratification and eat the candy when the adult has come back? She's going to give me like two candies and stuff. After the experiment, they followed up with these children just to see how their lives would turn out. And what they found was those children who were able to resist the urge to eat the candy immediately, who could delay gratification, ended up being a lot more successful. Now, what's important to mention is I subsequently saw other studies that said the marshmallow experiment was good, but there are other factors that would have come into play. For example, if I grew up in a huge family where there was never enough, when you present food before me, the first thing that comes to my mind is, if I wait, my brothers and sisters are going to come and they're going to finish the food, so I'm going to stay hungry. So what they effectively were saying is the marshmallow experiment was useful, but there are other factors that would come into the picture that would make somebody find it difficult to resist the urge to spend money, or the urge to eat the candy, or the urge, that kind of stuff. So essentially, we're saying in so many situations, a lot of us find it difficult to build our finances appropriately because, to a large extent, we are of the Babylonian mindset. We see money as the seeds that we need to eat immediately. We are not prepared to say, fine, I have said 5 seeds. I'm going to eat 4 seeds because that's what I need, but I'm always going to make sure that I plant 1 seed. And that's effectively what this is about. I mean, when you look at our generation, and when you look at people who are earning good salaries, and you find a lot of them continue to struggle financially, and part of that struggle is because they thinking in in alignment with the Babylonian way of thinking. I know somebody will say, I'm not earning enough, so I don't even have enough money to save come the end of the month. But this is like this, chicken and egg situation. Fundamentally, what our parents had to do, many of our parents, they earn very little, but they understood. Now, obviously, I'm generalizing that, what, I need to do certain sacrifices so I can begin to see results later on. What sacrifice are you willing to make today so you can start saving more money and investing that money? Because in 10, 20 years, that is going to help you in a big way. For as long as you have excuses, that means you're operating on the basis of the Babylonian mindset. You're not prepared to delay gratification. Maybe there are reasons, why you have the mindset that you have. But what I'm saying is the Babylonian mindset, it's a mindset that isn't necessarily going to be helpful for you. The abundance mindset of the kingdom of God system, it's a mindset that is about the process. And even if you don't get what you desire, you will always end up being better than things could have been if you were of the Babylonian mindset. If it's important for you to switch from the Babylonian mindset towards the biblical economics mindset, the abundance mindset, there are two books that I would recommend. I've read them and they're very powerful. The first book is by Carol S. Dweck. It's called Mindset. And here he talks about the two mindsets, the abundance mindset and the scarcity mindset. She doesn't call them that, but that's effectively what she's talking about. Another book is called Succeed, and it was written by Dr. Carol's protege, and that's Heidi Grant Halverson. And she talks about the same thing, but from a different angle. And I found these two books to be very, very helpful. So if it's important for you to switch from one to the other, those two books would be highly, highly beneficial. Again, the fundamental question that I'm leaving you with is, what mindset are you operating by? Are you happy? Is that working for you? What do you think you need to do to switch from the Babylonian mindset to the biblical economics mindset? If you found the video helpful, remember what I always say. It's your way of shouting out, hey, guys, this is very helpful. Come see. You do that by you subscribe, you comment, ask questions, you like, and those kind of things. And that's how the other people get to see, oh, this was actually something, content that was very valuable. Let's meet again in episode 106. And what we're going to talk about is it's something called entropy. Let's talk about it then. Bye bye.